I'm Eric Barnes with the Daily Memphian, and welcome to The Sidebar, the weekly show on the community, arts, culture, and more. Today, we're very pleased to be talking with Lakenna Booker. She's Executive Director of Memphis Merit Academy, so stay with us for a conversation with Lakenna. Thanks for being here. We're very excited because we're slowly filling out our studio here, our new studio. Longtime listeners know that we've had this journey from our old studio to then we were recording in Crosstown, and there were banjos playing, and there were people walking by, and now we're getting back into our studio. So we're very excited and excited that you're here. So you're the founder of Memphis Merit Academy. It's right now, K through 6. It's going to be K through 8 as you continue to grow and add classes. But talk about the school. That's the basics.
Yes. So Memphis Merit Academy Charter School, we opened our doors in 2019. Right before the pandemic, right.
Why are we laughing? Because it's so not funny.
Yes, it was not the plan, but we were able to open our doors in 2019 to 113 students in kindergarten and first grade. And we set out to grow each year by one grade level by 60 students until we reached K through 8. And so right now we're currently over 500 students now enrolled in our school, and we have kindergarten through 7th grade actually now.
Okay.
Yes, kindergarten through 7th grade, and next year will be the completion year for our growth pattern. So we're really excited to be a college preparatory school focused on literacy in Parkway Village.
Yeah. And for those people not as close to this, what is a charter school? We throw it around all the time, and it's actually not one size fits all, but what is a charter school?
A charter school is a public charter school, which Memphis Merit Academy is a public school, which means all students can enroll in the school as long as there is a seat. A public charter school has the autonomy to have flexibility around things like their calendar, their curriculum, and it allows families a choice and an alternative to their traditional public school in their district. So a family that may be zoned to a particular neighborhood school has the opportunity to enroll their child in a public charter school, no matter where they live in the city of Memphis.
And this is all, again, I'm 99% sure I'm right, but again, for people not as familiar, this is all separate from vouchers or the governor's scholarship program, tuition, whatever they're calling it.
Yeah, this is a good question that
right?
I really think needs to be, really does need to be had for just the average family. So we're not private, so it doesn't require a voucher. We use the same funding that comes from the state of Tennessee to be able to provide that education to their family, and then, of course, more philanthropic dollars to be able to make that educational opportunity more robust. So the vouchers do not apply. A family can simply do an enrollment application, and if there is a seat available, that seat is theirs.
And some charter schools, like we had Katie Smythe, who's trying to start the Mem Arts in the old Humes Middle School, a big arts-focused charter school. Your focus is college prep? It's academics? Is there art? Is there any particular focus beyond reading, writing, arithmetic, and so on?
So that's a great question. Our focus is specifically literacy. We responded in 2018 when we wrote our charter to Memphis Shelby County Schools, because we're authorized under the local district to the data that existed in that community, which was that 1 in 10 children were able to read on grade level when they graduate high school. And so our innovation is, literacy, our response to providing those intervention supports to scholars as they come to us. Because it was our brutal facts show that scholars are typically coming to us multiple grade levels behind. And so we designed a model to be able to respond to that which provides in our K-1-2 classrooms a teacher and an interventionist that is set for that classroom to be able to respond to that need.
Yeah, and how many kids in the classroom?
So it depends on the grade level, but anywhere from in lower grades, you might have 28 students and when you get to upper grades, that number, because our early cohort is smaller. We have in middle school right now just 17 students in each classroom.
So, okay. Well, that's great.
Yes.
I mean, I don't know, from a financial point of view, I know there's all this kind of math that goes with it, but for the kids' point of view, that's like private school small, or what private schools claim, so.
Yeah, so that definitely, we actually, over the years, even though we encountered the pandemic when we opened, we have been able to meet our enrollment targets each year. So from a budgetary perspective, we are, meeting our enrollment targets. So that number is fine because we planned for students to have more support as they get to middle school with those smaller class sizes.
And again, you said this, but just for people listening going, wait, the budget side, how does that affect? The money goes with the kid, with the student, right? The state money, there's a little bit of federal money that comes through the state. That X $1,000, if you as a parent take your kid to Merit Academy, that's money that you're going to get that, what is it now, $10,000? Is it more?
Yes, it's roughly $10,000. But there's a formula now that said that, depending on the child's need, if they have any special education needs, then that money then follows the student for us to be able to provide that need. So at our campus, we have everything from a comprehensive special education setting like functional skills to push-in inclusion special education services for families.
That's kind of new, right? I mean, over the years on Behind the Headlines, we've interviewed lots of charter school people and the kind of growth in charter schools and written about it for all these years. That was a criticism early on, maybe about 20 years ago, a gazillion years ago, maybe even in other states, that, well, charter schools aren't equipped to handle kids with special needs. Or the charter schools would say, well, you're not giving us the extra money that it takes to do those programs. So that's interesting. Or maybe it's been that way for longer than I realized.
Well, I think because we are a public charter school, I think it's always been the expectation. Now, there may have been, some that missed the mark, but I can't speak to that. What I can speak to is what we've done from the start. So Memphis Merit Academy is unique in that in 2019, when we opened our doors, we started with a functional skills setting, which provides extensive support to students that absolutely need it. And we work hand in hand with different providers and even the district to make sure that we're getting that right.
The other services, you're chartered by Memphis Shelby County Schools. Do you get any services or support from the district?
Yes, there are what they call shared services that we get from the district. An example of that would be now the charter school has to pay a authorizer fee, like a fee to operate within the district, and so within that fee encompasses some services. So these services, some of these services I'm getting ready to name, for example, like school psychologists. The district provides the school psychologists for us for like different psychological evaluations that may be necessary for families if they're trying to, figure out what other support their child might need. And speech services is another example of that.
Yeah. Buses?
So right now we are 100% car rider and walker.
Okay.
We currently don't.
You're not part of the district. Charter schools don't get that from the district.
No, that would be an additional expense that we would have to budget for in order for us to be able to provide buses. But our students come from all over the city of Memphis. Yeah. And right now our kids either walk to school, our families are walking them to school, or car riders. And so that's how we've been operating since 2019 until now.
Cafeteria, is that all independent and on you? Or?
Yes. Well, no, you mean the food service. So,
food service, yes.
Yeah. So right now we partner with Memphis Shelby County Schools, and we're looking at, as we just moved from one location to another location to our permanent campus. So we just purchased land and we expanded. And so we have had our shared services with Memphis Shelby County Schools with food service until now. And now we're exploring, since we're more settled, what it would look like for us to be able to, step out and improve our food service program by bringing it all in-house.
Yeah. I'll take a moment here and remind everyone we're with Lakenna Booker. She is executive director, founder of Memphis Merit Academy, K through soon to be 8 school in Parkway Village. I'll take a moment and remind everyone this is the Sidebar. It airs on WYXR 91.7 every Thursday at 11:30. I'm Eric Barnes. The show is focused on the community, arts, culture, everything in between. It's not just a radio show, though. It's one of many podcasts we do at the Daily Memphian, including our morning podcast, the AMDM, with Natalie Van Gundy and our editorial director, Mary Casciola, and lots of voices and reporters from the Daily Memphian. We also have our food podcast, Sound Bites, which also airs on WYXR every Thursday at 11. And we have our Memphis Grizzlies podcast with Drew Hill and Chris Harrington that airs every week, sometimes twice a week when there's a lot going on. We also host the podcast version of Behind the Headlines, the TV show we produce with the folks at WKNO every week. All of our podcasts are on the Daily Memphian site, as well as iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. And now that, as I said, we're in our new fancy studio, we'll start doing video podcasts You heard it here first, or maybe second, in sometime in the early part of next year. So we're looking forward to that. You can also get this show, The Sidebar, and Soundbites, the two WYXR shows, at wyxr.org or on the WYXR app. It includes all the shows, talk and music, archives of all those shows from all the 100 plus DJs that work on producing all the shows for WYXR. If you're not a supporter of WYXR, it is nonprofit, listener-supported radio, so do consider becoming a member or doing a one-off donation as we get close to the end of the year. Members get all kinds of benefits. You can get that on the site. Also, consider becoming a paid subscriber to the Daily Memphian. We are also a nonprofit. Subscriptions pay for about half of what we do. Advertising and events pay for another quarter. And then philanthropy pays for the last quarter for the largest newsroom in the region. Recently on the Sidebar, we had Lauren Reedy talking about her new book. We're from news and local news, and she's a speaker, and it was great. A great conversation with Lauren. We also had, I think, as I mentioned, Katie Smythe from New Ballet, who is now launching a separate effort to launch a arts-focused charter school at Mem Arts, it's called, at the Old Humes Middle School. On Behind the Headlines, we've got coming up soon a show with MIFA and folks from County Services talking about year end and just the difficulties of federal budget cuts and costs going up and so on. It was a good conversation, difficult, but a really good conversation that we had. Recently, we had Mayor Lee Harris, county mayor, who made more news in one show than it was possibly a record. It was possibly the amount of news that Lee Harris, and he's been on the show many times. That was a very good show as well. We had Justin Pearson on recently, the state representative who's also running now for the U.S. seat held by Steve Cohen, who was on a week or so before Justin Pearson. And we had Roderick Richmond, speaking of schools, the interim superintendent for Memphis Shelby County Schools. He was on the show. You can get all those as podcasts. You can go get the video at YouTube or WKNO or Daily Memphian. And last but not least, we had our last business seminar, I should say, of the year, the commercial real estate seminar that was more about overall business in Memphis. If you couldn't be there, Paul Young, the mayor, did a Q&A with me, I should say, at the start. That video is available on the Daily Memphian site. Just search for commercial real estate or go to YouTube and search for Daily Memphian and be able to get that. Our next business seminar is February 26th in the new year, and that will be our Women in Business seminar at the Botanic Garden. But we are here still with Lakenna Booker, Executive Director and founder of Memphis Merit Academy. The COVID hangover, I mean, it's 5 years. Sometimes it seems like 2 years. Sometimes it seems like 100 years ago.
Yes.
But you had kids who just started who are now, gosh, what would they be?
In seventh grade. Some of them are in sixth and seventh grade.
I mean, what do you, I don't want to say hangover, but it's like, the lingering impact of that. What do you see? And maybe there's some good things you see. I don't know, or maybe it's all bad.
Well, some of the things that I see that are the hangover, especially when students immediately return, was, we had kindergartners that were learning to read, virtually. And so we were one of the first schools that were opened after the pandemic hit to bring students back in person because we understood how critical it was for them to be in person for that. So the sixth grade cohort in particular, which were kindergartners, are ones that I see, they may be the ones that have the biggest impact in regards to like the deficits that might need to be filled, which we've seen lots of gains with those being able to be closed with our students that have stayed with us over time. Because we intentionally set out to be a kindergarten through eighth grade school because we understood that students would need time to be able to really fill in the deficits they may be bringing to the table.
And when you're doing that, and you're talking about kids coming in and the whole foundation of Merit Academy and literacy, is it just the hard work of, like you talked about, two people in the classroom and just one-on-one? I mean, is there a magic, there's not a magic formula, I assume. There's maybe a very complicated formula.
So there's absolutely, I wish I had all of the answers so that I could share it across the city of Memphis at this moment. I would say that it is a lot of hard work and a lot of strategy behind making sure that a child can read and write and speak and think critically in response to text. And that's our one thing that we've set out to do with our students, not just so that they can be able to pass a test, but so that they can be able to advocate within their community. I don't think I shared this in the beginning, but Memphis Merit Academy is located in the community in which I grew up in, so it's something that I'm very both personally and professionally passionate about. And so I just take myself as the example. I was able to go to school, get a great education, and then come back, work within my community, and then leverage the gifts that I had to be able to continue to uplift my community. Yeah. And I really do go to work every day and believe that my successor is in one of the seats in my classroom.
Yeah, that's amazing. You got into this, you were a teacher, math and science teacher at Memphis, then Shelby County Schools.
Yes.
Right, going old school.
Yeah, I was there for the pre-merger, and then with the merger, I was there.
Yeah. What drew you to teaching?
Yes, so I transparently, I went to college to become a pharmacist. Okay. And honestly, I went to college, and I realized in freshman chemistry, really quickly, I realized that there were, I had not been adequately prepared for what I was aspiring to be. Now, I successfully made it out with my biology degree and minor in chemistry. I made it out, but I set out after that to make sure that students that looked like me, that came from the same community that I came from, had their experiences that would equip them for the future that they wanted. So I took it personally when a child would look at me and say, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a learner, I want a lawyer, I want to be a radiologist. Whatever they told me they wanted to be, I wanted to make sure that from middle school, because I spent about 10 years of my career in middle school. So I wanted to make sure that in middle school that they had experiences, like with laboratory experiences and things like that. And it wasn't the first time when they stepped into college or, even in high school, so that they could be equipped. So STEM became something that I really started to focus on. And very quickly, I learned that in order for them to really engage, they also needed to learn how to read. So I got into a program at the University of Memphis, actually, that was for STEM professionals and helping to support us with content literacy, what they call it, like how to weave literacy strategies in STEM. And so from there, the rest is history. I've had impact in my classroom, worked at American Way Middle School for all that time. And each year it became, an even more pressing desire for how to make that impact larger, within my classroom, within my school, and then honestly being thrust into leadership because they wanted the impact to expand.
Yeah. And tell me, I looked at your bio, your LinkedIn, but from teaching, then you went to were you at KIPP? And then
yes,
Gestalt?
Okay. Yeah. So I went, from...
KIPP those being two charter schools.
Yes. So from Memphis Shelby County Schools, I went into KIPP. Yeah, I went to KIPP for a short period of time as a teacher leader. And I was there as science and a teacher leader. And then from KIPP, I was quickly recruited by Yetta Lewis. Shout out to Yetta Lewis at Gestalt Community Schools to come over and found one of their campuses. At that time was Nexus STEM Academy charter school. And so I stayed with that network for a couple of years to continue to help define and make their instruction strong. And I was presented with the opportunity to join the fellowship with Building Excellent Schools to found another high-performing charter school in the city of Memphis.
You've worked in the traditional public school and then a couple different charters and obviously founded your own. Are charters the answer for everyone?
No, I would say that charters are the answer for some, and it helps to equip families that might not necessarily have the assets to be able to put their child in a private school to be able to have that opportunity. And I think going back to my personal affirmation was just like I had two children at that time. I had one I had in private school at that time. And on a teacher salary, I was, very school poor. And then second child, I was not eating. And then third child, and so, and then even with optional schools, you have optional schools and, the process at that time, I know they've improved their process, but the process at that time was very torturous. And so for me, I wanted, no matter where a parent lived and what zip code they resided in, I wanted them to be able to have the opportunity to be able to have choice. There was just no choice. And so it is the answer for some families that need that choice. And I love for parents to be able to walk through our doors and they ask, how much does it cost? And I'm able to say, it's absolutely free. And so that was a part of that goal. And at first, there were no charter schools in Parkway Village until we...
Really?
Yes, until we founded ourselves right in the community. There were charter schools that were founded to serve, maybe bus children out. But now, there are several now, but we were the first to locate ourselves within 38118 and continue to grow and thrive there.
One thing you mentioned about young readers and literacy, years ago, a few years ago now, I have no sense of time anymore, the state introduced these requirements for a certain level of reading by what created what people called the third grade reading cliff. If you didn't hit those numbers, you as a student were going to get held back. There was some amount of accommodation for, well, you didn't pass the test in the spring and you could do summer work or summer tutoring and get past. What are we a couple of years past that law? I assume that applies to you all?
Yes, it does apply to us.
And what has that created? What has it been good, bad, a mixed situation?
I think I would land at just it being a mixed situation in that there are benefits of there's an urgency around ensuring that early reading is is effective across the board in the state of Tennessee. So that lends itself to increased training, supports, resources for school leaders, teachers, and schools to be able to lean on. However, because I'm sitting face to face with families and students on a day to day, it does also, we have to think about the social emotional lens of that,
Sure.
That much hinging on one assessment does lend itself to creating some anxieties around testing for students and families, because families are trying to ultimately figure out how to support their scholars so that they can ultimately be able to be successful, and kids are trying to figure out how do they show up as their best selves.
Yeah.
Teachers are trying to make sure that they do a good job. And so it does create pressure. I think there's more to learn about how we can ensure that even before a child reaches kindergarten, that they have a firm foundation. I think in Mississippi, they do a kindergarten exit exam, for example, and they do the third grade commitment. But there's so many gateways before you reach third grade that helps to support that happening.
It is interesting. I mean, I remember we did lots of stories on that. We did some shows on Behind the Headlines about it. And you sort of got, this conceptual bullet point that, well, if a kid can't read at that age, they're just going to continue to fall farther behind because they can't read about chemistry and they can't read about even math. They can't read about all these other things. So you do that. But then my kids are old now, but I can remember kids around my kids who were held back for perfectly good reason and all of that. It kind of people don't forget that, that Johnny or Jane is the kid who got held back. They used to be in my class, they're not anymore. And so that was the part I couldn't reconcile, the individual versus the well-intended concept of, well, of course they need to be able to read and we don't want them to go forward until they can.
Yeah, I think there's more work for us to do in the realm of education around how do we fully support and what things do we do. I know what it has caused for implications for our school is just really, that's why we have to have positions like interventionists, because there are going to be students that even when they repeat, go to summer school as the requirement, they're still going to have those gaps. So we have to intervene when they go on to those other grade levels. And then that is, a massive thing for educators across the city of Memphis to try to deal with.
Yeah. We clarified at the top, this is not a part of the sort of tuition voucher program. Has that changed anything for you?
I would say yes, in that I would be remiss to say no, because it does, because there's more choice. That means that there is a demand. The demand is different in regards to having to be more competitive when it comes to enrollment, recruitment for our families, because parents are having more choice. So it's a good thing for parents to have choice, but then it also means that we have to offer something that parents want their child to be a part of, and so we have to make sure that from a marketing perspective that we're highlighting the things that we're doing really well, and making sure that families feel we're taking care of the families that we do have. So retaining families over time. So it hasn't impacted us to the point where we have gone under our enrollment targets, but we've been able to maintain waiting lists for different grade levels because families want their child in, and so we're happy about that. But we also know in the future that this could change because of the diversity of the educational landscape. Yeah.
And overall, though, that's always been charter school advocates many of them have always said the competition is a good thing.
Yes.
Right? That we're competing against the private schools, against the public schools, against the other charters, and now, I guess, against the private schools via the tuition, and that You got to bring your A game, right?
Yes.
I mean,
yes, it does. It does. It does mean that one of the unique things that we've been able to do is like really, this community wanted Memphis Merit Academy to exist. And one of the things I did very early on was just like make sure that community engagement was like a top priority, because I was a part of the community when I saw a shift from the Mall of Memphis, it being a hustling, bustling, and thriving community to, it going down and the neighborhood shifting and changing, crime rising. And so our school existing in the community is also leading in economic development. Like being able to purchase the shopping plaza that we have over there is also setting a marker for like restoration and us moving forward. We're collaborating with the Community Development Corporation, the local library. We started with a community asset tour. Because a lot of times people think Parkway Village and they think crime, but there are so many gems in Parkway Village. And so we're continuing to build on that.
Yeah. With just a minute left. Oh, you mentioned some awards that you got before we started.
So Memphis Merit Academy has been internationally recognized for our adaptive reuse of the old Kroger building, that shopping center that existed in Parkway Village. And so we've had international recognition. We also were awarded the Pinnacle Award for community impact in the commercial real estate space, and Building Memphis finalists. So we are more than a school. I would like my students, I call them community activists, and my staff, when they are onboarded at the beginning of the year, I said, I always welcome them and tell them that like, you are a civil rights activist, because every child deserves to have an education. As a matter of fact, it's their civil right, but every child deserves also to have a high quality education. Yeah. And so Memphis Merit Academy exists.
Yeah, that's great. Last question I always ask people, the first concert you ever went to?
I'm more of for some reason what's coming to the front of my mind is comedy. I went to a comedy show, and I'm trying to think, I can't think of the name. I'm so sorry.
No, it's funny. It's funny how people answer this. Some people are just like immediately, boom. Other people will do, well, I went and saw, there was some act, but I was actually 4 and I was with my parents, but the first time I spent my money was in high school. Or someone recently was talking about how they snuck out of their house and they like hitched a ride to Madison, Wisconsin.
It wasn't a concert, but the thing that's most memorable in my brain is I went to see at the Orpheum The Lion King, and they had it here, and it was so beautiful. I got the opportunity to take my children. So that's awesome. That's probably the most impressive thing that I can remember in a short time.
There's no test associated with this, so that is a great answer.
Right.
So, Lakenna Booker from Memphis Merit Academy, thanks for being here. We really appreciate it. That is all the time we have this week. If you missed any of the episode, you can get the full episode online at wyxr.org on the YXR app, or you can go to Daily Memphian, or you can go to wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks very much, and we'll see you next week.